It has been 10 years for us, 10 years, and it's been a long, strange trip. We're going to walk through all 10 of those years, mostly talk about what SWOTOR was doing, because this has been the SWOTOR Escape podcast up until this point. We're also going to talk about what's next and how it might morph and change, which we've been talking about a little bit if you were listening to us last week. And we'll get into some news on Starfield, which is quite exciting, some news on Palia, also on SWOTOR, some significant SWOTOR news. And we'll talk about more about games we've been playing, including Coreborn. So we're going to bring up Coreborn. We did a podcast about that a while back on our other show. Going to bring that in, talk a little bit about what we've been playing there lately.
Yeah.
So that and more on this episode of the New Overlords SWOTOR Escape podcast. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 477. And with me is Seema. Hello there, Seema.
Hey, Max. Hey, everyone else. How's it going?
It is going great. Quick note as we get started. We already did this in the pre-show, but to celebrate, we're giving away some exclusive SWOTOR codes in our Discord during the show and probably for the next few days. So get into our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord and click to join those drawings. That's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
We already gave one away. We gave away one of the new exclusive content creator Mandalorian heavy jetpack mounts. So that is that. And now let's get into messed that up. Let's talk about some news. Let's talk about some news. Let's talk about news. Where did I put the news?
Bet you didn't see this coming!
All right, first up in the news, let's go through some SWOTOR news. And I
did see that coming, though.
I did not put our names next to this, Seema, so maybe we'll just trade off a little bit and talk about it. SWOTOR had some significant news. So if you're looking at what was popping up in the dev tracker over the past couple of days and a lot today from a few different people, that is looking really good. So I'll kick it off with the move to AWS. The first of the servers has moved to AWS, and it went pretty smoothly. So that was Leviathan, was that server that moved to AWS. And they needed it to bounce, so quote unquote bounce all of the servers and then bring everything else back up. So it's like Starforge just came back after just a couple minutes, but Leviathan stayed down. So then they like took down the cluster, took Leviathan out, brought everything else back up, and then within the day, it took a while, but within the day, they brought Leviathan back up in the cloud in AWS. Nothing changes, to be clear. And Jackie ran into some confusion out there on the internet about this. Nothing changes. In fact, you shouldn't notice any changes. If anything, and people did a lot of posts in the thread about this, they noticed, especially if they were close to that data center, better performance, better ping times. So you will notice a change in where the server was located. Right now, that's all that changes. It provides them a lot of flexibility to do interesting and new things in the future. This is a step forward. This is an advance. This is an investment on their part. This is not, I was going to say it's not a reason for you to post in the thread and say, this is the end. Obviously, they're retiring it, because it's the exact opposite of that. I'm not going to be ranty today. But that's what it is. And it went well. So we can expect to see that continue. They'll periodically be moving more of the servers over.
I feel like you've challenged yourself.
I know. I'm thinking hard. I'm holding back, pulling back on the reins. All right. What else we got?
So we got a validation that 7.3.1 is still on schedule for end of the month or beginning of September. And that's when we're also going to get Galactic Seasons 5. So that will have made it about at least 2 or 3 weeks, but probably more like 4 weeks in between Galactic Seasons. So
which is not
that's
bad.
about right.
Yeah, not bad. That doesn't seem very long. And in fact, with the PvP season still going on, it's been great for me. It's the right amount of time.
And they posted a long list of interesting changes to the target activities for Galactic Seasons, which is pretty interesting. There isn't going to be a companion this time. So what that meant is they had to fill in lots of slots with different rewards, because all the slots that previously were gear for that companion or were
their
Um,
weapons, or there was
and
like
the
2
and
gear
the
sets and weapons and customizations.
right, and the stuff that you give them to
Mm,
increase their influence, those were rewards as well.
right,
And then towards the end, there was one that was multiple, 2 or 3 of them for your alts. So they're gonna have some interesting things in there.
right,
Plus, we're gonna have some new targets. Like reworked how they're gonna do the flashpoint targets. They're adding more things. I think space missions was always a part of it. Like, I mean, I don't know about always, but it was in it. But I guess that's going to have a slightly stepped up footprint. Space missions, operations. They want to do more group activities, which is great with us because we would love to have more group activities for Galactic Seasons.
right. Yeah, we would. My bit of feedback on what they posted so far was, in fact, I posted it right here. This is me on the forums. Them adding and breaking out space missions into regular versus heroic, and them adding objectives potentially specifically for vet and master mode operations. I suggested they just be careful about that and how they feature those. Heroic
I mean,
space missions are hard. You in Discord earlier were talking about not only what I said, which is it takes practice and it takes learning to even be able to get through it, but you got to gear up your ship, which most people probably haven't done. It's going to be hard. Now you don't have to do every objective, but if that's going to take that off the table for 95% of the player base to not really even be able to achieve that, that's a problem. And then if you do that with another one with vet and master mode operations, if it's vet mode EV and KP, and you're going to say do any operation in vet mode, then potentially that's great.
so how did it work in previous seasons? Like you could do 7, but there were something like 12 of them available.
There was 10 possible, and you could pick 7. The,
So, like, what if their plan is to make 15 possible and you can pick 7?
well, their plan is to increase it, but only by 1. There will be
Oh,
one additional objective, which will probably be this operation objective that will just be for
see, that's what I
permanent
get for
subscribers.
skimming. So, but it'll still be 7 is the max, but there'll be
Yes,
11 available.
seven
So
seven out
maybe
of
that
11.
extra one is for a vet op or a heroic
Yep.
space mission.
But there's one extra little twist which gets me, which is some of the objectives are worth 8 points and some of the objectives are worth 12 points. So you could say, oh, you only have to do 7, just don't do the heroic space mission. But if there's only 4 12-point missions and you're trying to get ahead a little bit and it's heroic space and vet mode R4 and nobody
I
can
get
do
I
those,
get
it's
that.
not going to
It's
feel
it's
good.
it's like a little sub
Yeah.
Galactic Seasons mini game to get all the
Yeah.
12-point ones.
And
Yeah.
and what I said in my post, and this is a way to give feedback. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it is a good way to give feedback, which is what it would do to my experience. I just said that's not going to feel very good. So that's kind of, but it's not a game blocker, and I don't need to say that's it. I quit. That doesn't help anything. But it
Plus, you can't quit anyway because I will not let you.
right. I did say the thing I'm most looking forward to, which they did describe, is they will continue to weave a story around the season. And I was thinking earlier today, when I think about battle passes and seasons, I really think that Star Wars: The Old Republic has done a great job in creating their season approach. It's really done well to weave a little bit of story and flavor into it, to have achievable rewards, to have things that bring people together, to create an objective for things that you want to do. I think it's done a really good job along those ways, and meaningful rewards. You're not doing it just for the rewards either. You're doing it because it's stuff to do. There's
Right.
intrinsic value, which is what you want. I like it. It's my second favorite kind of seasonal objective battle pass type
And without
system.
a companion this time, then we won't have the targets that were, to get the tokens
Right.
for the yeah, or to up their rep or whatever. So again, got to be creative.
Final bit of Star Wars news, just we wanted to throw in there. Kai Zeiken is getting removed. Uh, what Kai Zeiken was in there for was to provide a vendor that would get you some of the pieces. It was pieces of armor for some of the sets that came with last expansion. Now those sets will be available in a complete box with all of the pieces. You'll just pay 10,000 tech fragments and 1,000,000 credits, and you'll get the complete set. There's a couple other bits in here that oh, so it does say the tactical schematics.
Yeah, it does. But it
So,
does. But
but they
it
also
calls
said
out
set
armor mech.
bonuses. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Please note the set bonuses obtained by armor mech and synth weaving schematics will not be purchasable in crate, but the tactical schematics I get. I don't get what that first line means about the set bonuses. So we'll have to look into that as that evolves. Them removing Kaizyken though, boo. We'll have to hope that Kaizyken shows up somewhere else. Someone in the thread suggested adding him as a bounty contract week target.
I like the way they think.
Thumbs up to that one.
I won't miss him. I did like
Yeah,
his
just a
things. I like the
funny
things
little
that he
character.
said, but
Yeah, he's just a.
I
I mean, he
overall
didn't
I
do much
prefer to
that,
be
but
able to purchase what I want to buy rather than
yes.
wait for a random. And this is why I didn't. Um, I haven't acquired all those sets, and now I'm glad I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I
Exactly.
cringed when I said that for all the people who did spend their time coming to Kaizyken every week and hoping for particular pieces.
Yes. In other games, in other game news, we've got two other sort of bigger news reports. Smaller one that we'll go through now, and then I'm going to get to Starfield, and we got some bigger stuff for Starfield. But did want to mention Palia because we talked about Palia last week. I've actually still been playing a ton of Palia. I'll mention that and just what I've been playing when we get to that. But they came out with a patch this
Really
week.
stresses me out.
Which is weird because it's a cozy game, but I will talk about that. It is deep and there's a ton going on there. You could play Palia and not be done. You could play Palia for like 8 hours a day and not be done. Anyway, Palia had an update, a patch, patch 0.166. And what that brought was a couple updates and fixes to the game. It brought some additional content, so there's new quest items to discover. In fact, I found one of them, which was a special recipe. It brought
Mhm.
some fun little decorations that you can get within the game. And as I said, fixes and some minor quality of life changes to like the spawn rates of certain of the materials that we're going after. Like I said, I'm out there chopping trees and mining rocks, and some of that works a little bit better right now. The other thing they did, which did cause a little bit of an uproar, and again, you can't take what you read on Reddit, especially as any version of reality, but it did cause a kerfuffle in there, and I've seen people even bring it into their Discord from time to time. The way Palia is monetized is it's free. It's a free to play live service game with a cash shop, and all that's in the cash shop is cosmetics. The main cosmetics are your like outfits. There's no armor. You're not earning any gear in the game. So there's a base set of outfits that you can just when you create your character. Then you can go to the cash shop and you can buy an outfit.
But yeah,
Um,
I mean, for context too, there's no combat, there's no killing of mobs, there's no drops where you
right,
would conventionally get gear.
right.
And even using the word gear is kind of misleading because there's no stats on it. It's nothing. It's
It's just
just,
an
do
outfit,
you want to dress up?
right?
Which of course we do want to dress up.
So
Anyway,
they're
go ahead.
expanding that, and they also added the way you need to buy those is you need to buy Paleo coins or whatever for their cash shop coins, and you use those coins to buy things in the cash shop. There's other reasons people don't like that. They'd rather just pay the exact dollars. When you're working across many countries and different currencies, oftentimes businesses will implement this kind of currency conversion so they can do the currency tracking to the coin purchase, and then the cash shop prices can all then be stable. They added where as you buy those coin packs, you're going to buy 1,000 coins or 5,000 coins, you get a pet, which is a little cat that will follow you around in game. And they actually do look pretty cute. I saw them. You get those added on when you buy those coin packs. Now, that's all that's how they're monetizing this game. I mean, it's still in beta. They could add more things, or they could do something different, but that's how they're monetizing. And people are just there has been some people being up in arms. People are saying that, "Oh my gosh, there's no way to earn any of these things in game." No, no, there's not. This is the only place you go and get it. It's just cosmetics. It's an outfit. You go to the cash shop if you want an outfit, which has no bearing on the game, and you're the only one pretty much that's going to be looking at it. This is a moderately multiplayer uh,
So this
online role playing
reminds me
game.
too a little bit of what I mean, it's kind of similar to what Blizzard does with WoW when you pay for 6 months of subscription up front. Part of that package is you get a mount or a pet or something.
Yep. So
And
I
there
don't.
was kerfuffle around that too when that first
Right.
started.
Right. I don't see any dark patterns in what they're
No.
doing. Seems completely transparent to me. I know that they spent millions and millions of dollars to make this game, and they gotta pay for it somehow, and it's a live service game, so they can continue need to do patches, do updates, make this stuff work, and
And they have a pretty extensive community management team. They they have a lot of
they're
expenses.
porting it to the Switch. They got it's not cheap to make games, guys. They gotta pay for it somehow.
You know what else this reminds me of a little bit? Is when SWTOR first went free to play and people were like outraged that when they were playing free to play, they didn't get all
Right,
the things that people who subscribed to got because they wanted it.
right, right.
But, you know,
So,
all of these games are trying to figure out how to make enough money to pay everybody's salaries, stay in business, and possibly have a little left over. They're not particularly money grabbing.
right. It's people look at like executive salaries and go, "Oh, Bobby Kotick, that's how all games companies work." It's not. It's not,
It
guys.
really isn't.
Go read the forum posts on the game companies that are going out of business and shutting down because they don't have enough funding to even finish their games. That's the way a lot of game companies operate. So, okay. That is Palea. So we're going to continue to watch that. And as I said, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been doing in there, which is more than I've been playing Baldur's Gate. Beside the point. Starfield.
We'll get
Starfield
there.
had some significant news this week. Some fun things, some interesting things, and some important things to the game. First up, they added some lore to the backdrop of what you're going to be encountering as a timeline of the story so far. So, of course, all of the content creators that are Starfield content creators tore this all apart and they're like, oh, this is, you won't believe number three. But it is good. It is fun to sort of see this and get a little bit of this kind of lore to set the setting of where you're entering into this galaxy of the future. There were two wars that we're recovering from, which then invites new questions about, well, what were those two wars? What happened? What about the mechs that we see in some of the animated shorts that were part of one of those wars specifically? Do those exist in the game now? They exist, but they're not operable. They're wrecks that you'll be able to encounter. We did find that out, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can go through this story so far, and it is pretty cool. I like this. So this is the start. I'm sure Zen, one of our friends, has now an opportunity to do a lot of reading, and it's not too big. It's I just scrolled through it.
Maybe he can put all these little paragraphs on flashcards and memorize them.
Yes, he can make his own codex for it. But between this and the animated shorts and what we've seen in the trailers and what we've heard in the interviews so far, people are starting to put together this idea of the setting and the story, and it's fun. So Starfield, if you're not completely aware, is going to be a sandbox simulation role-playing game. There will be story, there will be exploration, open sandbox play, and there will be the sort of like the role-playing aspect of it. One of the ways you can think about it, because it's Bethesda, is Skyrim. So the way Skyrim was kind of open world in a lot of ways, kind of a little bit sandboxy. You could just go into these adventures and pile up a bunch of stuff in your little house or fill up a bunch of chests with it. You could go and get companions. All of that kind of thing will exist here, but expanded. We've already seen in the trailers when around that stuff is expanding. Uh, so what we also got to flesh that out a little bit was a dev Q&A that happened just yesterday. So this is Wednesday in their Discord. So they did it a little bit weird. It wasn't voice at all. It was just a QA in the Discord. It was
Oh,
still fun.
interesting. Sort of like an AMA on Reddit.
Kind of, yeah. And it was done in Discord forum entries. And they were, you could tell they were sort of like doing it live and trying to figure out the best way to go about it. They had one of the forum posts. They took questions throughout the week leading up to it. So they had their 16 questions that they were going to answer. Then the moderator would post the question, and a couple of the devs would type responses live to that question. And that would be it. There was another channel for everyone else in the Discord to sort of be able to be chatting back and forth. Nobody got it. They were doing it all wrong. Everybody was in that channel asking, when are you going to have hood toggle? And they have 16 questions. They already, there's no, don't submit questions. No, when are you going to have hood toggle? Just if you could just answer that. That's not the way it works. So that didn't work at all. Then, and I don't know if they saw my feedback on this, but they had reactions. People love reactions, right? So every time a question got posted and then the devs did their, 3 or 4 little responses, the reactions would start. And everybody would put the flag of their country, and everyone would put the most obnoxious animated super reaction that they could find. So there'd be like a block of 40 reactions. So there'd be like 2 lines of response and 40 reactions. I posted a couple times in the general channel talking where people were asking about hood toggle and they shouldn't have been. I said, could you block or remove those reactions? It would make it much more readable. So about halfway through, they did that. I'm not saying that they saw my requests in there. Other people would probably be requesting it as well, but you got to get used to that kind of thing. I think especially in those very busy servers, a lot of those reactions are completely useless. And I'm really not fond of those animated super reactions, especially when I'm trying to like read through these responses from the devs. And then there's like this explosion, blast, super reaction covering up the text. I can't even read it. What are you doing?
They do cover up the text.
No ranting. No ranting. Dev Q&A. So real quick run through of a couple of the cool things that we heard about. They said there will be housing in the major cities, both as rewards and houses that you can purchase, in addition to the outposts that you'll be able to create and the ships that you're going to build. They are going for, and they've sort of really seem to be illustrating this in everything we've seen so far, that there is a little bit of a simulation aspect of this because you've got your ship, you've got your outposts, you're building a civilization, or not a civilization, but a little colony. There's exploration, and then there's definitely the RPG elements. There will be a story that you'll be able to go through. There's multiple factions, and you can join all of those factions. They talked a little bit about some fun tech. You can, as you build your character, there's a bunch of sort of traits that you can pick. And one of the traits is you're sort of like a family person, and your parents are a big part of your life still. So you pick that as a trait. It creates parents for you. And then you can go and visit your parents in the game. And when it creates parents, they've got tech in there that looks how you customize your character and spins out parents that are like, that match that. At least they say they've tried. So that's fascinating. And I love that. And I love that little bit. I mean, there's other traits like you're a mercenary, and then you'll get more mercenary contracts, or you're an outlaw, but then you have more trouble with the law, but less trouble with the whole
bureaucracy.
Like the parents trait, and then being able to like go and visit your parents and getting bonuses associated with that. That's really cool. Smuggling, people were really interested in smuggling. There will be opportunities to do smuggling as a career. There will be special parts of your ship that you can equip that will be made to be able to smuggle goods. If you get caught, you can get in trouble, you can get thrown in jail, blah, 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 blah. So that sounded interesting. People were very fascinated by that. They said the economy is fixed, so it's not a dynamic economy, but skills will change the margin and prices that you've got. Again, it's a single player, so the dynamic economy wouldn't add all that much to it. They said you can get fined or potentially go to jail if you're arrested. So that was back on that smuggling thing. Time only passes while you're playing in the game and not
Oh,
while you're
that's
offline.
good. That's interesting. Yeah.
So maybe there's even then the opportunity to sort of pause, which in Baldur's Gate I'm appreciating. So that's nice. Lots of factions, and they said there's an opportunity to kind of join all of them. And as in doing that, if you're part of Constellation, which is sort of like the main story good guys, you could be joining one of the other factions as an infiltrator, undercover agent. And then there's sort of missions and quests and things associated with that. People were asking, which I thought was an interesting one, and you and I have talked about this, Seema, the non-lethal playthrough. Are we gonna have to just murder a whole bunch of people?
Mhm.
And they said they can't guarantee 100% non-lethal playthrough, but there are non-lethal options to weapons, and there's sort of like a lot of dialogue options to talk your way through a lot of things, but you're gonna be out in like outer rim, uncivilized areas. You might come across a base where there's gonna be people shooting at you, and you might need to shoot your way out. So, I mean, they didn't say all of that, but they said full non-lethal, is that realistic? That might be difficult, is sort of the way they phrased it. I like this idea of
But
non-lethal, though, as an
non-lethal
option.
doesn't mean necessarily just killing other people, right? Like non-lethal could also mean you could get killed by, an army of ferrets or something.
And there are lots of aliens. In fact, there's crazy aliens that you might be coming across, but I don't know, maybe you can stun them and run away. So even that.
Oh, non-lethal to them. Yeah, no, so
Oh,
you're taking the term non-lethal to mean zero combat.
no, to not no, less like murder
Yeah, that's
hobo
what I thought
world.
too. So, like, if you're, in a hostile environment and you have to make camp and then there's wolves or something worse than wolves,
You might have to
then you might have to kill those,
defend
yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's some weird hand waving they did about religions. There are a couple sort of religions written into the game. And then this isn't too far in the future. This is only a couple hundred years in our future. So our religions still exist to some degree, I guess. They didn't say that they refer to them too directly. There is a sort of like a religion based around some of the events in the story, and then like an atheist kind of religion based around science and that, but that's sort of like that's not become a religion, but become a sort of a
Belief.
belief system and a group, a club that you can join. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see how they figure that in. They said they're up to 20. They said over 20, which is a weird way to phrase it. Over 20 named characters that can join your crew. There's 4 of the main story Constellation crew members, and then there's up to or over 20. You'll be able to hire some of these people and have them work on your outpost or have them on your ship and that kind of thing. And they said you do have to pay them, but it's a one-time fee. Uh, so it's not an ongoing salary. They said they actually experimented with that in dev, and it didn't really feel that good, especially since time doesn't pass where the way it works. And there's one-time salary, you can hire them and go put them on your outpost.
Forrester wants to know if any of them are bears that you can romance.
Oh, old Baldur's Gate. Well, maybe we'll talk about that for 2 seconds. Uh, then they asked some of the softball questions like, "What was your favorite part of the game?" One thing caught my eye when one of the devs said, "The cyberpunk settlement called Neon is one of my favorite." I said, "Ding, ding, ding. Now you have my attention. I I want to see this, please." Uh, and then they talked about those mechs things that I mentioned. The mechs will be in the game from the war.
Mhm.
Just the other dev though said the immersive details that they put in everywhere. The NASA punk, and they've said this term before, the NASA punk aesthetic is one of their favorite things, and I really like it as well. That's something that really drew me to this game. The idea of if you think about classic NASA logos and the way things look and the
Mhm.
white and how that would like evolve and become, but now we're a couple hundred years in the future. They're well used, but still looks like some of that NASA stuff. That's what everything is that's sort of like the theme behind the scenes of everything. So cool. And then the other big thing I just wanted to mention was preload. The preload dates have been set. Preload has begun actually for the Xbox version. So if you bought it through the Windows Store and you bought it for Xbox, Xbox preload has started today. And then on August 30th, PC, Steam versions of preload will begin, which is great because I'm going to be getting on a plane on August 31st to go to PAX West. So I will be able to preload on August 30th. Sweet. So a bunch of Starfield stuff. I'm super excited. We'll be talking about it more when I get back from PAX. So there's that. So that's it for the main news. I just want to do a shout out because this news in particular and this whole podcast is brought to you by the Alea Iacta Est Guild, our gaming community, which you can find at aie-guild.org. It's a very broad community. It's in tons of major MMOs, including SWTOR, Final Fantasy, WoW, ESO, Guild Wars, LOTRO, and Star Trek Online. We have an AIE associated Star Trek Online podcast that was going on today. We're also in other games like Palia and Corborn and Diablo and all of those. So come join us, aie-guild.org. You can find some of the details on how to join the Discord on that page. If you have any questions, you can certainly ask in the New Overlords Discord as well, newoverlords.com/Discord. This podcast is also brought to you by all of you, everyone who's listening right now, no matter where you are, and definitely everyone who's in the chat room and has been in our pre-show and post-show live on Twitch when we broadcast on Thursday nights right now. That could change in the future too, but right now it's Thursday evenings. Very, very happy to have all of you along with us on this ride. It's been 10 years and some of you have been with us that whole entire time. It's been amazing. You can find everything and you can continue to keep up with us on YouTube, in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord, and in a bunch of social media feed places. No rants. No rants, Seema. Do not rant about Twitter taking away my tweet deck this week. But it still goes out in a bunch of those places too. Our Discord is going to be the main place. All the feed stuff, just go in there. You'll be able to get to everything. That'll be the best. All right, Seema. 10 years. 10 years. Take a listen to this.
Oh, man.
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't remember, this was our original theme song for about the first 6 years. Yeah, about the first 6 years. So that it brought back some memories, and I went back and listened. And we've only had the 2 theme songs, so that was our original theme song from the beginning of the show. And the first recording of the show happened on August 19th in 2013. That was episode 0. I still have that episode. It never went live. It was until the next week when episode 1 went live. So we're right here on the cusp of, we're at our 10 year of episode 0, and we're going into the finishing off our 10 year to go to episode 1. But yeah, that was 2013. So what I did, Seema, is I went back through all of our show notes of 476 shows. It took me a couple hours.
I mean,
then I was like doing stuff on
yes.
the side, and I pulled out a couple things of like what was going on at the time in each of the years. So I went by year. So I've got a couple bullets in here. I'm going to run through it. I'll talk. I'll name each year and read the things that I pulled out, and then if something catches your eye or you remember a memory, then let's talk about it then. 2013. So when we started in 2013, GSF was not invented. In fact, GSF was called the Super Secret Space Project. It was launched late in the year, and that was one of the first things we were talking about. Turntable was a thing for us. So this is how we listened to music during our ops nights. So that was cool. Our first Amazing Race was invented. That was an in-game game event that we created. It was actually created by Pell, who was the original guild leader of our guild in Star Wars: The Old Republic on Keller's Void, I believe the name of the server was. And it was a multi-week version. It was each week there was clues and a race and roadblock challenges. Oricon was in development. PvP Season 1 was launching, and the first Life Day happened. So that was all 2013. What do you think of that?
I remember when we were just floored by GSF because there was no lead up to it. There was not, you know, months of waiting for it, no word on it. It was just all of a sudden, hey guys, now we have Galactic Starfighter. Go check it out. And we're like, what?
Yeah. Uh, and it was really cool. It was a cool addition. It still continues to this day. In fact, tomorrow night, we have a group in our guild that's going to go off and do a GSF night. They didn't even have bombers in the game when it was first introduced. So it was a big deal, and they put a lot of work into it, and I'm glad they did. That was cool.
Yeah, it was really a success.
2014. 2014, Quat Drive Yards, the Flashpoint was getting added, and that was the GSF themed Flashpoint. Still exists. There's a place on the fleet where you can go to the entrance of the KDY Flashpoint and the fleet deck, which is a really cool place. We've showed it before on the podcast. Dread Fortress and Dread Palace were getting introduced to the game, and their nightmare modes were getting created in 2014. Quesh Hutball was getting invented in 2014. Strongholds were added in 2014 and didn't exist before that. There were Cantina events in Colorado and Boston. The first casino nightlife event was in 2014.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Guild flagships. So guild ships were added in 2014. And Shadow of Revan. 3.0 Shadow of Revan launched in 2014. And so that's the kind of stuff we talked about.
I remember KDY when it came out, we spent a couple of weekends just all day Saturday and all day Sunday just running KDY back to back to back to back.
And we ran it, and here you can tell because Shadow of Revan came out later in the year. We ran it to gear up for Shadow of Revan, for the content, for the operations, for Ravagers. Is Ravagers part of Shadow of Revan? Yeah, Ravagers and Temple of Sacrifice.
Yeah.
2015, Blood Hunt was in the game, and hard mode Blood Hunt was getting added. And when hard mode Blood Hunt went in the game, and this was hard. This was still when it was called hard modes and nightmare modes. That was one of the most difficult flashpoints ever that they'd ever created. Koratani was in the game and had lots of bugs. And still going into 2015, because Shadow of Revan launched at the end of the year, early 2015, this was a big deal. Koratani was bugged. In fact, there was a contest that they had created that was going to be for guilds to go and kill, do Ravagers and submit their finished photos, and they had to cancel it because it was too buggy. Koratani was too buggy. Every once in a while, we'll notice a little Koratani bug still, but Outfit Designer was getting designed and created in 2015. That didn't exist before then. Knights of the Fallen Empire was announced at E3 in 2015, and that was early in the year. All summer then leading up to Knights of the Fallen Empire, Nico Okar subscriber rewards were happening. So if you've got those in your mail every time you start a new character where you get Nico's blasters and Nico's duster, that all came from 2015 and the lead up to Knights of the Fallen Empire. Then Knights of the Fallen Empire went live, and along with that, companions got nerfed, and that was kind of a big deal too. Because remember, all your companions got taken away. They reworked companions as part of the new companion system that was going in with Knights of the Fallen Empire, and it made a bunch of things quite difficult when they first made those changes. You ran into that, I think, because you were a healer and you were healing your companions quite a bit.
Yeah, that's rough. That was rough.
Yeah, and there was some of these things I'm sort of glossing over it, but there was drama. And that's a lot of what we talked about on the podcast. 2016.
It's kind of amazing that Outfit Designer came out in 2015.
Yeah. Yeah, some of this is longer ago than I thought.
Right, right. And also closer to the beginning of the podcast than I would have guessed too. Like,
Right. Definitely.
especially GSF coming just in the same year we started, that seems very telescoped to me.
Exactly. That's yeah. Yeah, that a lot was going on back then, a lot of big things. And,
But yeah,
well,
the bugs with Cortani were very frustrating too because that was a long fight and you never knew until you got into the second part of the fight, the room with him in it, um, whether you were gonna have to do it over or
with
not.
Ruger, yeah. That and it was crazy because that was also they released Shadow of Revan right before the end of the year, and then they went on break, and stuff was broken while they were gone, and that caused a lot of drama as well. 2016, the HK Subscriber Awards happened. So if you've got the hollowed out skull of HK,
Yeah.
that was the kind of thing that was going on in 2016. The Eternal Championship was added. So when Knights of the Fallen Empire went live, remember, that was the start of the journey of the chapters. And
Mhm.
chapters were coming out like once every couple months or once a month in some cases, 6 weeks, 8 weeks in other cases. So by the time the Eternal Championship chapter came around, so that got introduced and that was a challenge mode. They were doing some testing on that. That was interesting. The Odessan Warzone, so in PvP, the Odessan Warzone got added. I just did an Odessan Warzone today in the game. It's one of my favorite war zones, and people still don't understand it today. It went into 2016. I didn't realize that was that long ago. I would have said 2020. So Odessan
Yeah.
Warzone. The
Yeah,
first
I would have said the same.
the first mega server merges happened in 2016. So Keller's Void went away in 2016. I don't know if we went down. I don't think we went all the way down to just the 2 that we have now.
No, because we were on Jedi Covenant after,
Yeah.
Keller's Void.
So 2016 we went to Jedi Covenant. So it wasn't when we Starforge. It wasn't Starforge time just yet. Knights of the Fallen Empires continued to drop all year. Something new that was added in 2016. Also 2016 also was the boost to 60 tokens. So boosting your character boost that was new. Weapon tunings. Weapon tunings were invented in 2016 and added to the game. That kind of seems newer to me too. Uh,
And this is when DVL came out, interesting.
DVL. Yeah, the DVL event.
Oh
And that was a
my
long
gosh.
event. Remember that was what,
It
like
was.
2
I know
months, 3
I spent
months?
many happy hours doing DVL.
That was a fun thing. DVL, for people that don't know, that was a long event that they did where they basically gave you a whole bunch of challenges, including do every single flashpoint in the game on
Right.
story mode and master mode.
And level every class of character.
Level every class to level cap to finish
Not
their
not
class
just
story.
not just have one at level cap.
Yeah, you had to do
Start
all
it.
of them from 0. Yeah, you have to start a new DVL character and level them to finish their class story, and then you had to take 1 Imperial and 1 Republic and level each of those to level cap. So all 3 chapters of class story on every single class, and then 2 of them had to go to max. You had to go 1 Dark 5 character, 1 Light 5 character. It was a lot of work, and it was a long summer of DVL.
It's a precursor to Galactic Seasons in a way.
The reward we got for DVL was the XP armor that we continue to use today to level up new
Right.
characters.
And I think they wish that we didn't have it
Maybe
because 'cause they've never
too
made it
bad.
available again. Yeah. Or maybe they don't care that much.
And then by the end of 2016, Knights of the Eternal Throne launched. So they got through all the chapters of Knights of the Fallen Empire and they moved on to Knights of the Eternal Throne. In
This is
2017,
this is around the time we started getting really familiar with the mini hairdos
Lana
Charles.
of who?
Of Charles.
Charles. Oh, of Charles, but also of Lana and of Theron Shan.
True.
Because Lana's face and hair changed about that
Yes,
time as well.
she has gone through some
But yeah,
evolution.
Charles with his hairdos and his changing his facial hair and stuff. Eric, no, not so much. Same hair forever. That same buzz on his noggin. 2017, this I thought was interesting, and I never picked one up because I never didn't want double XP, but the white acute module was invented. So when they did double XP events, if you didn't want the double XP, you could buy the white acute module from a Gree that showed up on the fleet, and this still shows up during double XP events. You can go there and you can buy it. I want it now. I need one. I'm gonna go buy a stack of them next time it comes around. My low level PvP characters, it already hit
Right.
40.
Now there's a reason for it. Yeah, for you.
Low level PvP goes 10 to 44. It hit 40. It started at like 32 when I started this PvP season, or 34. I'm gonna hit 44. I almost this week already rolled a new character so that I'd have a character to do the 10 to 44. I'd prefer not to have a level 10 character. And if you're below level 20, if you're like 10 through 19, you get targeted first and everybody's gonna come and kill you because you don't have all your abilities, and everybody sees that they can click on you and see your level, they're gonna come kill you. So I want to like level up to like 25 or 30, and then I'll get that character into rotation. But if I get a white acute module, that'll help.
Really? Because Machete's just saying it only stops the double XP.
It does.
It's
Well, Machete said it also slows down. It doesn't stop it completely, but it slows down regular experience gains
really because
for all your characters.
that's a weird way to do that. But anyway, I would
Uh,
think turn it on or tune it off.
so this is still in 2017. Iocath came in 2017. Gods from the Machine, the first bosses, came in
Dang, really?
2017. So that was another interesting one where they added, remember it was Tithe? They added only Tithe, so Gods from the Machine
Oh,
came
right. Yeah,
online,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
just the first boss when it first went in. So that was interesting, and that took a long time, I think, until 2018 to get the rest. Yeah, so Isaac's didn't come out until 2018. So that took a long time to get all of Gods from the Machine done. There was a funny quote. Apparently, throughout like half of 2017, the Harbinger server, which is one of the servers that existed back then, where a lot of the hardcore PvPers played, it kept crashing and going down and like catching fire in the data center or whatever. And by late in the year, I had some quote in there I saw that I wrote: "The tide goes in, the tide goes out. Harbinger crashes. You can't explain that."
I do remember that.
Uh, Master modes. So this is where we went from Nightmare to Master. Their language changed in 2017. The Umbara Stronghold was added, and there was roadmaps. So this was a start of a bunch of roadmap drama also, of like what's in a roadmap, what does a roadmap mean? Now they did a roadmap. You're telling me this is a roadmap? Uh Not enough of
I
a
don't like your
roadmap, blah blah
roadmap. This is
blah.
yeah, right, right, right.
And that has
Well, it's
never
a roadmap.
ended.
This isn't a roadmap.
So I would,
This is a roadmap.
yeah, I would steer away from roadmaps. That would be my recommendation for any
Right,
game company.
right. And definitely here in SWTOR land, don't use that word. If
Right.
just just say I'm giving you an update on our plans.
Yes. Hey, here's some fun things you can look forward to. Maybe, if it works out. Not promising anything. So don't tell me I lied when it's one day later than I put in this
Take a
note.
breath. Take a breath.
No rants. 2018. The other little bit of drama that was going on through all of this since 2016 and into 2018 still was companions. Companions were still returning, and they were still returning until a couple years ago. Uh, Kira and not
Vet.
Vet, and who came back with Kira? What's his name? The Sith guy who got the big ship. She kept her new buddy. She kept ragging on him about the big ship. Scourge.
Yeah, Scourge. He's a
um,
great character.
but people would request and demand and cry about which companions were back and which weren't. So a lot of that was still going on back then. Isaacs finally came in 2018. We got things like the Commander's Compendium was invented in 2018 to boost your companions to influence 50. Anathema Nathmos 2018. That surprises me as well. Uh, Conquest. So this was going on from 2016 to 2017 to 2018. Conquest was a thing, and Conquest was a way that we got a lot of our gear, these command crates, and a bunch of this stuff. It kept changing and kept changing. There's another big change in 2018 that caused some kerfuffles and drama. Uh, Augments. So the gold augments, those were invented in 2018. No, maybe they weren't. No, maybe that was the tier right before. Because yeah, no, we were only going up to 258. So that was 2 tiers before. That's not our. I lied. That's not even the current purple ones. But it was when the gear score went up to 258, where you could do, and this came up big in the early 2019 when Hive of the Mountain Queen came out. You could do specific content to get the 258. It was like 252 was the gear cap, but you could get a couple pieces of 258 if you did this master mode or ranked PvP in certain ways. So that did lead into uh oh in 2018 also. Here's Oh, I put this in the wrong place. No, this was back on 2015. So rewind. 2015, March 9th of 2015 was the first time our podcast went on YouTube.
Oh.
And you can still find all of those back to 2015 on YouTube, but we did not start. So the first 2 years it was not on YouTube. So leading then into 2019, we'd got Osis and we got Hive of the Mountain Queen. Also, fun times for me, the Chicago Star Wars Celebration happened, and there was a big cantina event at Star Wars Celebration in 2019. I was there. I was at Star Wars Celebration. I was at the cantina event, and we had a little party downtown. I had a little hotel suite, and we had a bunch of people there. Swotorista was there. Kogas was there. A bunch of people were there. It was fun. It was a good time. Bunch of guildies, and everybody was there too. So that was 2019. Guild Heraldry, which I had completely forgotten about.
Oh yeah.
In fact, so that we still have that little emblem next to our names for Alea Acta Est. So that was invented in 2019. Dantooine and the Pirate Incursion happened in 2019. Nautilins got added in 2019. I still have a character named Will Smith's Baby. And I almost deleted it this week because I'm running out of slots and I got to create a new character for low B PvP. So that might get deleted. And then by the end of the year was a second Cantina event, which I also went to in New York. And that was where I met Keith and talked to him. I met Sith Lord Britt was there. Eric was there. A bunch of people were there. That was really fun. A bunch of the dev team. Okay, so now we're getting more to modern times. I'm not going to go through all of like 2023 when we get to that, but 2020, Alderaan Stronghold. So this is now going to seem much more recent, much more familiar. So Alderaan Stronghold, Duxon was in end of 2019 and then 2020 where we're getting the master modes. Swoop races were invented in 2019 and added to the game. We got SWTOR on Steam in 2020. The Feast of Prosperity was invented in 2020. Login rewards were added in 2020. That is new and interesting. And Jackie was added in 2020. So that was fun. So Jackie got added to the BioWare team at the time.
Been here now.
Yeah, and it's only been a few years now. 2021, I had a note that, so I think they were added in like 2020, but amplifiers were kind of a big deal and were evolving by 2021, and we're still a thing. People don't remember what amplifiers were. It was almost like if you look at your augment and your augment has a little bit of stat on it, amplifier was sort of like a slot where you could roll a little bit of additional stat, and it was more than just a like crit or mastery. There was additional things that you could have like less falling damage. So, but small little things. And you could have amplifiers
so
on all your gear.
Very tiny.
Yeah. But you could re-roll the amplifiers to get a perfect set. And each time you re-rolled an amplifier, it got more and more expensive, and you were doing it on all of your pieces of gear. It was a crazy credit sink. So here we are by 2021, and PvP has gone up to season 14. So that was started at season 1 in 2013, and here 8 years later, it's up to season 14. Secrets of the Enclave. Kai Zyken showed up on the fleet in 2021. Now he's leaving the fleet in 2023. And 7.0 at the end of the year, Legacy of the Sith got delayed. Got delayed until the beginning of 2022. So 2022, we got Legacy of the Sith, we got Manon, we got Elam, we got combat styles. Combat styles didn't come just until last year. It seemed like they've been here forever in my mind, almost. Weapons in the Outfitter, R4, just last year, first saw R4. The Manon Daily area, Ruins of Null went crazy. It was broken for a lot of people. So that sort of like is launched into the modern area of everything that we're in now. And then 2023, when we got like 64-bit and the economy changes and Old Wounds and Voss and Shrine of Silence and Broadsword Move and Cloud Compute, all that kind of thing is where we're at today. So that's 10 years. There you go, Seema. That's quite a bit. What do you think?
It is. I'm first of all very impressed that you put together this list.
It
But
was fun.
actually, when you lined it all up like that, a lot has happened in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. A lot. And thing after thing after thing. And when you're in the middle of it and it seems like you're waiting for the next expansion to come out, it can seem like a long time and a long wait and can seem like nothing's going on. But when you look back, either you look back over a year or you look back over 10 years, a lot happened. A lot happened. So it's tough. It's tough to run a live service game and keep these kinds of things going. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, there's the running of it, and then there's the enlarging of it,
I do
and
not,
there are 2 processes that are going on all the time.
yeah, I don't envy game developers, especially of a live service where people are expecting additional content for you to spend months and months and it overlaps. So you could, even while you're building the first version of the product, you could be working on the first expansion. You could be spending years and it goes out and then your player base consumes it in minutes and is done. And you're like, it's like if you were a chef and you took 3 days to make this beautiful meal and you said, here's the meal, and like had like 2 kids like run in, sit on the table, cram it all in their mouth and run away and then go, well, what's next? I just spent 3 days making that, guys. So that's the life of a game dev. It's a challenge. It's tough. But that's what it was. So that's been us. Where do we go from here? That remains to be seen. So by next week, I think you're going to see us continue to embrace this new model of the way we're talking about the games industry in general, big news that's coming up, and the games that we're playing in addition to Star Wars, as well as Star Wars. So Star Wars The Old Republic is still going to headline a lot of what we do. By next week, you're probably going to see so here's a little sneak preview. I'm probably going to see a change to the title, the name of the podcast. It's probably going to be something like the New Overlords podcast. It will change in the feeds automatically. You won't have to worry about that. That won't need to be updated. We will still lead with a lot of Star Wars because that's our main MMO that we're playing. But we will talk about other things, as we're about to hear in a second. We'll go a little bit long today, but we'll bring up a couple of other things that we've been playing. And we'll continue down that path. In addition, maybe a little bit more on the side because we still want to show the Broadsword team and the SWTOR team that we're still loving their game and get their game out there. We're probably going to stream a little bit. In fact, tonight before the show, we streamed our ops team for 2 hours and showed a bunch of casuals goofing around in R4, and that was pretty hilarious. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on our Discord. And again, thanks everyone for coming along for 10 years. And we hope you're going to be with us for the next 10, which is starting now, which is really, really cool. We're really excited. All right. So that's that. That's the last 10 years. I think we've got new games that we've still been playing this week, though, haven't we, Seema?
It looks like meat's back on our menu, boys.
No way. God, finally.
Oh, I kind of like the magic bread.
Well, you thought I was kidding earlier when I said paleo was stressing me out, but
Okay, let's
it
talk about
for
that. Let's start
for
there.
a cozy, it's like I'm angry the whole time I'm in there. Because, like, for instance, I have a quest to go talk to a particular person, so I look at the map. I don't see her anywhere on the map, and then I look at the map at a different time, and she's on the map, and so I said, "Okay, I'll go find her." But there's no mini map, so I don't know where I'm going. I don't when I'm running, I'm doing my version of going towards her, which doesn't always match the actual version because I'm not familiar with the world. And anyway, by the time I get close to her, she's gone somewhere else. And then when I finally do catch her, she says, "Oh, hi." And we have a conversation, but I still don't know what I'm supposed to do for this quest. And I
Yeah.
have all these quests that say, "Go and talk to so and so." And I go and talk to them and go, "Yeah, we don't want to talk to you till you have 100 gold coins or whatever." And I have like 3.
Yeah,
And
there's a couple weird things with the quests where I think you need to if it's you know how you can have 3 of the quests like pinned and tracked? Make sure you
yeah.
have the quest tracked. That helps a lot.
What you mean in terms of finding the person?
Yeah, it helps in terms of
Yeah,
finding
no,
the person.
I did have it tracked
Yeah.
because I didn't realize at the time that there were other quests that were not tracked, and I
Right,
didn't realize that until later,
right.
but yeah.
If
Yeah, and then
you
I went to, like, I have a quest to, like, catch a bug, and so I saw a bug and I tried to catch it, but I guess I'm supposed to have a bomb. So I'm supposed to go to what's his name to get a bomb, but I can't see him on the map either because he's indoors somewhere.
yeah, they
But
go to sleep. They go to sleep at night.
yeah, but I mean, but they can still be on the map.
They're always on the map, even when they're
No,
sleeping.
not if they're inside a building necessarily, 'cause
Yeah.
I walked inside a building and there were 3 NPCs in there that were not on the map.
No, they'll still they'll always be on the map, even if they're in the building. They'll always be on the map. They might over their faces might overlap. It might be part of the problem.
Yeah,
Um, you
that
can
could be.
if you find the person you want on the map, also if you middle click your mouse button, it highlights and tags them. Then on the top of the screen, your little compass, you will always their face will always show up and you know if you're running towards them or not.
You know if you're running towards him. To me, all I see is a bar with a thing that goes back and forth when you change directions.
Right, but they're well, so you put their face in the middle. If it's way to the left or way to the right, that means you're not facing them.
Yeah,
So if it's in
yeah.
the middle, then you're going towards them. So that compass is the way Skyrim works at the top of the screen. The compass is the way,
Oh,
but it's like a game
yeah.
thing.
And
So
I mean, I
you'll
think
get used
that's
to that.
part of it for me too. It's like I know it's like how a lot of other games work that I haven't played. It's just I'm not that person who's like, "Oh, I'm filled with wonder because I don't know how anything works."
Right.
I'm more like filled with frustration because I can't make anything work.
Yeah.
And I can only do that for about 20 minutes before I'm just like, "No."
Right. I I think there's not it's not that deep of a game where
Well,
a few of those 20-minute sessions, definitely you definitely stop. But then a
I
few
mean,
of those 20-minute sessions will probably start to some of
so
these
I
things will
even
start to become
I
apparent.
started like, I'll look on the internet, how am I supposed to play this game? And I got a bunch of stuff of how to get into the beta. I'm like, "No, that's not what I
There's
mean."
not a lot of that yet, unfortunately, because it's so
I
early
know.
and it's in beta. The wikis
Like I
aren't
have
very
like
good.
the bugs. I'm supposed to um get a bug and then it says, "Oh, you talked to Henri or whatever his name is." And
Ani,
well,
yeah.
I just ran into him like 10 minutes ago at some place and I'm like, why didn't he talk when I talked to him too? And why didn't he tell me about bugs then? I mean,
Right. Now I'm on the
so
other
apparently
end.
he's supposed to give me a belt with some bombs on it so I can
Yes.
catch a bug.
So they give you
And
the
I'm not gonna like
bug
that
belt.
in any game either, I can tell because you have to target and
You do have to throw the
click
bug.
and
That's one of the less frustrating
is it
of the
forgiving?
games.
That needs to be forgiving.
That's relatively forgiving. There are rare bugs that are not very forgiving. Not that you gotta, like, keep throwing they'll, like, break out. So it's not just, like, one bomb. You gotta, like, throw the bomb at them, and then they're like, "Nope," and then they'll run around. They gotta
Right.
throw the bomb at them again. There are some rare bugs that will despawn also. They're like, you miss them 3 or 4 times, and they'll burrow into the ground and be gone. That's frustrating, but
And you
part of
told
the
me
game.
something about, like, a waterfall, so when I found a waterfall, I said, "Oh, I'll go behind this waterfall." Well, when you go in the water, it just puts you back on the shore.
Yeah, you can't swim, so any deep
Right.
water
You
and
can't
I
swim
didn't
or
mean behind.
drown.
I meant you gotta walk up the ramp to where where you first came in the game.
Yes,
You walk up
yes,
the steps, you
because
walk up the ramp,
yes.
and then that
Yes,
goes behind the waterfall.
I did eventually figure that out.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I jumped over to, like, a piece of,
Yeah.
the ruins in the water, and then I couldn't get back,
Yeah.
and every time I would fall in the water, and it would just get me back I would jump me back to the same spot that I was trying to get away from, and
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've figured everything. I had some of those same discovery moments where I'm trying to figure out what was going on early in the game for the first few days as well. I'm at the other end of things now where and I'm surprised how deep the rabbit hole goes in terms of things to do. It seemed a lot of this seemed very trivial. I've got I there's only sort of like 2 zones, and I know the zones like the back of my hand now because there's only 2 of them. But so you're thinking there's 2 zones, there's fishing, there's the crafting, there's catching the bugs, there's mining and chopping down trees. And
right.
then there's layers. Then there's leveling up your axe, leveling up each of your tool sets in each of those professions and getting all of the materials to level them up. Then there's the tiers of the skill set. Then there's as you get to the end, there's achievements to start going after to prove your mastery of that discipline. Then there's the whole, which is very deep, the affection and interaction with the townspeople. That's a huge part of the game, and you could
Mhm.
spend all day, every day, doing stuff for the townspeople and talking
Right.
to them once because you can talk to them once an hour and get, like, a little bit of an influence gain. And then once a
Right.
day, you can give them a gift, and once
And
a week, you can give them a special gift.
I think that's part of what's contributing to my sort of panic about it, right? Because I bring this MMO mindset. I want to make progress. And then I start to see how much progress there is to be made. And I can't even get this guy to talk to me. I'm like very frustrated. But
Yeah,
yeah, also want to clarify too. I'm not saying that's the fault of the game. Games are perfectly within their rights for you to have to figure things out.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
But still, if it's not discoverable, then that's a
Well, I
problem.
mean, I'm sure everything is discoverable. I have just a very short fuse. It's a me thing.
Um, on the Palea front, so I played Star Wars: The Old Republic this week, played plenty of that. In fact, I'm almost done with my 4 objectives again for the PvP track. Um, Baldur's Gate, everybody loves Baldur's Gate. We'll talk about that in just a second. And Palea, and a little Coreborn on the side, which we'll talk about in a second too. Palea has been soaking up more of my time than I expect, and probably just as much as SWOTOR, and definitely more than Baldur's Gate. Baldur's
Interesting.
Baldur's Gate because it's not a persistent world, and Baldur's okay, so let's talk about Baldur's Gate for a second. So yeah, I've been playing a ton of Palea, and I'm deep into it. Don't need to go more into it than I went in last week.
I mean, I
I can
haven't
show you
given
my
up on
garden.
Paleo, and I want to
You can
make a
feel free to
house like
give
I
up on
wanted to.
Palea. There's more games out
No,
there.
I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying that to the people listening to me complain,
Ah,
right? And I do want to get to a point where I can build an extensive home and a big garden and all that stuff. I I did harvest some carrots today.
I I'm like alarm clocking to harvest the crap out of my garden. I've done I've bought the 50,000 gold coin upgrade for my inventory, and I'm back up to about 80,000 coins. I'm filled. I have 6,000 units of storage because I upgraded all of my chests, and it's all filled. I've got a paleo problem. So what I don't have is a Baldur's Gate problem. Or maybe I do have a Baldur's Gate problem. In that Baldur's Gate is not the be all end all of everything perfect game of the year for me. It's not bad. It's a very fine game. I'm still humming along. I'm not even halfway through the act 1, so there's that. Um the idea that this is like the best game ever, groundbreaking, the new sets a new standard for RPGs. I think that's overstating the case a little bit. And I don't think it does. It sets a new standard for D&D style choices and conversations, and having those conversations matter and tell a story. It does set a new standard for that because they've done an extensive work to have a whole bunch of those branching paths, which is really, really cool. And that's their strength, and it should be. What it doesn't set a standard for is a standard for RPGs. It's a new standard for it's best ever CRPG, computer role playing game, which just says take my tabletop game and turn it into a role playing game. But if I compare it to Skyrim, Baldur's Gate does not have any immersion for me. Zero. I have zero immersion playing it. It's supposed to be this amazing role playing game. I have zero immersion.
Right, because of the turn-based and the
top
dice.
down, turn based, look in every crate, or you might miss out on, there's a book, and if you read that book, it opens up some new path for you to go to. Oh, maybe fine, you just missed out on it. I've heard people talk about it and write about it, and I've even heard podcasts talk about it where they say, oh, isn't it amazing? You can skip this whole, you could just miss it, but then the game still goes on. And well, yeah, but then you missed a key mechanic of the game that you could like not use any of the companions. You probably won't finish Act 3, but you could, and your story will be you being dead. But is that good? Is that I mean, does that mean that the game did a really cool thing because you can't finish it now? I don't know. I don't know. And if you miss out on half the things because you didn't look in every corner and your perception check failed because you didn't find the secret doors and you didn't look in every chest and read every book, is that good? It makes a replayable game because you maybe could do that next time. So it's interesting. It's not open world also. That's another problem I have with it. People call it an open world game. It is not. It is not an open world game. In fact, I've tried. It very quickly you get into. Are you still there?
Yeah.
All right,
I don't know what that noise.
I don't
Yeah.
like that noise. Is everyone else still there? Yeah, I think we're still there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can very quickly get into to a state where I'm going along. I go down a path. Oh, there's something going on here. I talk to these people, and it's start a fight, and it goes, you are totally outclassed. You should probably run away or reload your game. It basically tells you that. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not supposed to do this yet. I go down the path the other way. I get to a load screen comes up and says, this zone outclasses you. You should probably not be going here. At the load screen, it's like, don't even bother. So it's not open world. It's relatively linear. You're going down these paths. You got to go do the thing you're supposed to do. You can do a couple things out of order, but you certainly can't just like go off and explore the world. Again, that's not bad. It's telling a story. It's taking you along. You get to be really creative about how you break the game, and that's sort of the fun of it. Because it's a single player game, you can break lots of things. Oh, I got myself into a weird corner where I can kick this boss into a bottomless pit, and now I've won the boss fight. And that's, in one way, that's really interesting and cool. In another way, is it interesting if you just avoided a whole boss fight and now you have no idea what the loot was on that boss? And
So I I understand everything you're saying, but I also think that you and I are not necessarily
Mhm.
the audience for this game
Right.
because we have notoriously bad track record with single player games in terms of
Yeah.
finishing them or
Mhm.
even sometimes even opening the package. Um, so and the people who I totally get the draw of this game and people getting really into it because I've listened to our D&D players and the
Right.
things that they talk about. So I think it's for the person who's really, really interested in um, the shades of all the different abilities you can do,
Yep.
how you can upgrade them or side grade them or whatever.
And
And
that
apparently also the
creativity of
romance is a really big part too.
yeah,
And it's never been a big draw for me.
yeah, I'm, being able to customize my junk and I actually skipped that in the character creator. It's like, I don't I don't that just does not interest me. And the romances, Palea's got like the whole little romance system. Yeah, that's not a draw for me either. But as you say,
Yeah, mini games. Yeah.
um, eh, what was the part that I'm reacting to is not, is this for us or is it a brilliant game for what it is? Because it definitely is within its category. It is amazing. What I'm
Yes, I know what you're
reacting to
saying.
is
Yes,
the
is
games
the
industry
all
saying
hail.
game
Yeah.
of the year. This is going to change gaming. Not, that's, but they're in a sweet spot. It's a honeymoon phase also. In fact, I've seen more posts this week about, "Oh, this bug's really bothering me. Why do they do this?" And I think as people start to get to act 3 or don't get to act 3, some of that will moderate, and it won't be like, "This is the most amazing thing ever. I can't believe AAA gaming, all gaming studios everywhere must respond. This is impossible to reach this level ever again." That'll go away. That'll calm down just a little bit. And that's what I'm chafing against a little bit. Not
I
that it
mean,
isn't
that's
brilliant within its
I mean,
class.
it's
Pretty
definitely
cool.
calmed down for Diablo and gone the other way.
Well, yeah.
First couple weeks of Diablo was like, "Oh my gosh, this is fantastic." And now people are like
The worst thing ever.
enraged.
And
Yeah.
the devs are terrible. And we always hated Blizzard anyway. Yeah, that's and I hope that doesn't go this direction with Larian. In fact, I don't think it will because Larian put themselves in a good position with their monetization, which everyone loves, just at one package purchase price. Like, I guess no one ever wants to have a live service game ever again. Okay. I like live service game. I like persistent worlds. Um, Baldur's Gate can certainly have a single
Yeah.
purchase price with no monetization strategy because
When I get a new outfit,
it's
I
one
want
game.
to wear it where other people can see it.
Yes. Yeah. Do I do I care that well, they not wearing any clothes in this trailer as I'm
Right?
watching it here, so maybe costumes don't matter in this game. I'm running around
Choices matter,
naked
costumes do not.
anyway. So yeah. Anyway, so that's where I'm sort of at Baldur's Gate. Palea's pulling more of my time. Corborn's pulling time, and Star Wars is pulling more time. I keep coming back to Baldur's Gate, but it's going sort of slow for me. I'm done with the Goblin camp. I saved the druids. I'm moving on from there. They had a little party for me, which was very nice of them, which is kind of cool. Um,
Nice
so we'll
goblins.
see. And I found one character in Palea that I'm gonna do the romance part with, not because I'm all that interested, but I just want to see how it works. But there's only one character in all of Palea that isn't in any way interesting to me because I don't want to like date a child. I'm sorry. If half your characters in your game are literal children, they're like 18 or whatever, that's
Mhm.
not interesting to me.
No.
So there's one, I think she said she's like 40 years old. I think she even makes a comment like that. And she's like a witch who lives in the woods. She's also hot. So it's okay. I'll go date her and see how that whole thing works. I guess I'm trying to date Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate, or romance her date. Because I'm trying to romance Shadowheart. Because I guess I'll try that. We had a glass of wine together at the party. Okay, it's a thing, I guess. we'll see how that goes. And again, not all that interested in that. I want to kill some goblins. I did get myself in a little bit of a situation. I killed a whole bunch of goblins, right? I went into their headquarters and I killed every goblin, not just the man goblins, but the women goblins. No, two children goblins ran away. Then I walked out the door and every goblin that was part of the goblin camp outside, and this is like 30 of them, and you can fight like 5 to 7 goblins at a time. 30 or 40 of them are all now like, boom, we're angry. You're gonna now fight all of us, apparently. I'm like,
How did
nope.
that go?
That was a reload. Reload. I guess I can't go out. I can't. I actually looked up. There's 2 ways to get out. Then you can have these perception checks and solve this puzzle and find this place where you can get out, or you go to your map and you say travel to blah blah blah. Where's this open world immersive RPG? I'm just supposed to quick travel, and everybody says, "Oh yeah, you just quick travel out of there. You just open your map and you can quick travel right to the other camp thing." Like, okay, there's not like some. I did find the one other back door, but that didn't get me to finishing this quest. That was like a whole nother thing. You go into like this other land, kind of the Underdark, which is a D&D thing. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with that. One game which you and I both played, which I did want to talk about a little bit today, which we did an interview on in our Behind the Games show, is Corborn. So why don't you describe what your view of Corborn is, and behind the scenes here while we're talking, I will actually bring up Corborn because I can show our in-game town just to finish off
Right. So,
off for today.
like it says on the screen right there, it's a multiplayer survival game, and uh, basically, it has a lot of. There is some overlap, some things in common between Palia and Valheim and Corborn, all these games where you can build things. The difference is Palia, you're not in any danger. You're not going to starve if you don't eat. You're not going to like the sun
It's not
won't
really
burn you.
survival in Palia
Yes,
at all.
there's no survival. Yeah. But in Corborn, there is still the building aspect and the gathering, chopping trees, gathering things. But all the time you're doing that, you're sort of starving. Like your health
Yeah.
is slowly draining away. And you're naked in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I guess that's very common for survival games. Like in Valheim and the Vampire when you play, were you naked when you first started?
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got like a big bag of nothing to start you off.
But it also, we could group together on the same server and work on the same town.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool.
So this is, and Palia sort of works that way, but not in the housing part of it. So that's, the building is big in Corborn, and it's group building if you want it to be. Corborn and Palia, though, are moderately multiplayer, which means, and that's a phrase that I'm just sort of inventing, and I've seen it used a couple other places. It's not massive. There's massive numbers of players playing it. There's tens of thousands of people playing Palia, but when you start the game, you get shunted into a shard that might only have 25, 30, 50 people in it. Same thing for Corborn. You get shunted into a shard. There's main towns where you can meet up with people, and then your shard you get shunted into. As you group with people, you can pull them in, but it's all transparent. There's not like names of servers and you say, well, what server are you on? I'm going to join your server. You can't do that. You're shunted into these shards relatively transparently to the players. That's the way this works. Now, we took all of our pals, half a dozen, 6, 7 people. Forrester's in the chat room is one of the main people who has helped building this town and gathering all the resources. So we took all of us and we all made sure that we got in a group. So we all got shunted into the same shard, and then you can start the game. So this is a more traditional, as Sima was saying, a more traditional survival crafting building game where you get thrown into the game with nothing. You pick up a couple sticks on the ground and you make a little hatchet. And you take the hatchet and you whack on the tree, you whack on a rock, and you get some rocks and some wood and Now you make the next thing, and then you make a workbench, and with the workbench, you make the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, to the point where you make this thing, which we've got in the middle of our town, which is our town center, which gives you a radius on the ground where now you can start building. And that's what we ended up doing it together, but you can also do it solo. In fact, I have my little solo building off elsewhere. But this yellow border, this is within which we can build. And we built up our materials and we built up our little town. We went from wood up to stone and we built this. This is a little more extensive than what a lot of people build, just having sort of like the open courtyard and all of our crafting around it and all of these little stone buildings and a bunch of these defenses in the front. So one of the other aspects of this, and if you played other games, potentially like Ark has this in a light way where rogue dinosaurs might come by your little outpost and might chomp on your buildings. Conan Exiles has this in a real way where as you do things in the game, a little counter goes up and a siege against your town happens. Here, that mechanic is associated with you leveling up your town. You need to level up your town to get the better crafting stations, but each time you level up your town, you increase the counter and you'll go through potentially a couple invasions per level to get up to that next level. And the invasions is why we have these defenses. So the invasions are, and they get progressively more and more difficult, creatures of the world. And some of them are like the corrupted versions, or some of them are like almost like NPC versions, come and pound on your town and will break things and take down your town if you can't defend it properly. So that's a big part of this game too. So yeah,
But what that allows you to do is some planning around when the attacks happen so that they don't happen when nobody's there necessarily.
right.
Yeah.
So in Corborn, you're in complete control the way they've changed it. It wasn't like that in the early alphas, but now here for the early access, you're in complete control because those don't happen until you, in fact, I can go to our town interface here. I can interact with it. Your town is in the warm-up state. What does it say? Interaction will be possible in 20 minutes. I don't know what that means. That's something new. Interesting. I can't interact with the town at the moment. Oh, I wonder if the server sort of goes to sleep a little bit because we don't have a lot of people playing on our shard at the moment. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, you have to farm up a bunch of materials and get special crystals to add to your town center, and you're in complete control of when you add those, and that's what triggers the town attack. But you can see my little guy here has got some cool armor.
Yeah, he does.
I made myself a cool weapon. We've got a bunch of materials in all of these boxes. We've got tons of storage, and you run out of storage space, but then you can build new boxes for your town to store all the stuff. And then there's little creatures out in the world. Like here's an elite version of these little goats that we call Stevens. I just named one Steven randomly, and here's the elite version of the Steven goat. And you fight them. Combat is relatively straightforward. It's not too complicated. Bunch of telegraphs here. You can see I've got a bunch of these little Stevens. I got all of these little Stevens trying to kill me. They're doing those ranged attacks. Get out of that telegraph. See, this is not good podcasting material when I'm trying to do a fight and not die. In fact, am I even taking any damage? No, here we go. So you fight these little creatures. You get materials from the creatures that you fight, and you get potentially drops, little drops. Like you can get a piece of armor that's a drop. You can get schematics that are drops that then allow you to make new things for your friends or make things for yourself. And because you've built, like us, because we've built up our little town, we can share everything with each other. Now there's new things. In fact, Forrester said, which I did not see yet today, Forrester said they just did a live stream today. Because this is an early access, they've got a bunch more planned, which is really cool. So what they supposedly showed off in the live stream was something they've been planning, which are adventures. And adventures are sort of instanced content. And you can go off and do this instant content for rewards or to help upgrade your town, or they have different plans for how they want those instant content adventures to happen. We're also in one of the nations of Corborn. So it's Nations of the Ultracore. Corborn Nations of the Ultracore is the name. There are 6 nations. We've only sort of encountered the first nation, and Ambrose, the land that we're in, is the first land. There is other nations that we're going to be introduced to. And all of this, it comes from Hauke Gerdes was sort of the DM of some custom tabletop gaming on a very popular, very big D&D style Critical Role style show in Germany. And along the way, invented a bunch of this kind of lore and stories in these nations and these crazy groups that you potentially encounter. So when they formed the company, they decided to make a game. They said, okay, which one of these should we pick? And the answer was, why not all of them? We're just gonna just put it all in. And so that's the path that they're going down, where it's going to be really interesting to see it grow and see them add the dwarves who power all of their mechanical devices on beer, and the enigmatic, almost spaceship science culture. And so it's a lot that they've got out there in their vision. The other fun thing that we saw in the interview, and I know you got this vibe, Seema, is they're very open. They're very open about showing off everything they're doing, showing their ideas, what's working, what's not, showing like gray box. They were like showing the world when there were no clothes and no armor, and it was just naked people running around with gray box stuff in the open world.
Yeah, which was cool.
So very, very cool. Very, very fun in that way. And I'm a huge fan of riding alongside a development team as they develop their game. So as we talk about games in the New Overlords podcast, I think you're going to see us getting into a lot of early access stuff and seeing it as it gets developed. And I'm a big fan of that. If you don't like unfinished games, then Core-born may not be your thing. In fact,
Not
Palea
yet.
may not be your
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
They
because
aren't.
Palea is in beta.
Yeah, they're not finished games. So if you want that, solid finished, oh my gosh, I can't believe people are saying this about Diablo 4. It's an unfinished game. They can't believe they put it out like this. If you think that's unfinished, then don't even touch these games. If not, if you're into seeing things early, playing it because it's interesting, and we'll talk about Star Citizen
And watching it evolve. Yeah.
as a prime example of that in a coming episode someday. Then definitely this is a cool one. It's a fun one. I like the aesthetic. It's got a lot of place to grow, and I'm gonna be happy to go alongside it as it grows. See, it's day and night. It's morning is coming. The mountains are very cold. You have to have gear to survive in the mountains. There's no farming or fishing yet, so we'll have to get that in the game. But a lot of crafting
And
and cooking.
everything wants to kill you.
Yes. No, some of the little starter animals don't. The little Steven goats, the big Steven goat will want to kill you, but the little Steven goats, like, here, I can go walk over to these guys and pet them, and they won't do anything. So not everything wants to kill you.
So when you first spawn in and you're naked, give every animal a wide berth.
Yeah, don't punch them in the face because they will kill you then. But you also got to get used to the content, the combat.
Yeah.
It's all telegraphed abilities, and if you're very used to how you got to learn them, but if you learn those telegraphs, like here, if I fight this little guy, I can fight almost anything in the game and never take a hit. Oh, I got 2 of them. There's 2 of them. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because now there's 2 telegraphs, but here I haven't taken a single hit. So that's kind of the way that works. Are there more coming after me? No, good. So you got to get used to it. It's not very advanced combat mechanics just yet, and there's only melee with melee weapon and with like swords. Um, so again, very early, but very cool. And Forster in the chat room says the thing that they were showing off for one of their first adventures was actually PvP, which is interesting. So we'll see
Yeah,
how
I
that
mean,
goes.
considering, yeah, how their combat is.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but we'll we'll see. And I think a lot of that stuff's going to certainly be optional. This is Forster's little house that he built right around the hill from us. And he built some stairs to go down the cliffside into the water, which is kind of cool.
It's very cool. I like it. You have a little pier.
All right, so this is an example of some of the stuff that we're going to want to be talking about in the future. We're going to talk about other games that we're playing and who it's for and who might like it. If there's something you think we should be checking out, or you have questions about a thing that you know that I play or Seema plays, like Classic, or is Seema going to be raiding in Ice Cream's Citadel?
I don't
Let
know.
us know.
Looks like, I don't know. We'll see.
Jump in our Discord, ask us those questions, and maybe we can add that to the agenda. And we're certainly going to be talking about what shows up at PAX West. I heard Path of Exiles 2 might be playable at PAX West, and that's going to be coming out in 2024, but looks interesting. For all the people that hate Diablo but love ARPGs, Path of Exiles is hot on those people's radar. All right, I think
mean,
it's
until they hate that one.
yes, until they hate that, because we all hate games. The zeitgeist, the general population of gamers just hate games, apparently.
Right. Right.
So I think that's it for today. Thank you again for the 10 years and coming along with us on that journey. Thanks for being along with us as we evolve. It's going to be really fun. And stay tuned, certainly chat room, and throughout the next week for some of the SWTOR giveaways that we're going to do. We're going to do another one as soon as we get into the post show here. But for now, remember, all our feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, and our YouTube video goes on YouTube/newoverlords. You can certainly come chat with us in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord. You can follow on most of those social networks still, and I do put out the feeds and notices there on Twitter, Mastodon, Blue Sky, and sometimes on Threads, and sometimes on Facebook. You can usually find us there at Max the Gray or at The New Overlords or New Overlords. We'll keep you up to date in all those places too, as long as they exist. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.